So why is this so hard when you logically know the person you've been with is a narcissist and you still are having trouble rectifying your memories, your feelings, and whatnot? Because I believe quite a bit of what we felt for each other was real, him included. I think that aside from the fact that me being a big empath makes me a target and somebody, someone like him wants to control or dominate, there is also a part of it where I am the only person that sees him, really sees him, because it's not like I didn't know these behaviors were out there. I didn't necessarily know the narcissism piece, but I see him for who he is, good and bad. I know all of it. And I still loved him. And I used to say to him, I see you and I'm here, I'm not going anywhere. And I think for a little while, I think that to some extent that felt good for him. There absolutely were moments where he had genuine excitement and he was starting to do relationship inventory. Even though, okay, we're not going to do the relationship thing right now, here's the things I'm thinking of, here's the questions I have for you, so that, when I get to that point, I know what I need to know to potentially move forward with you, meaning me, right? So he's doing that. The pinky swears in the middle of the night. There was a lot of genuine emotion and vulnerability that he was sharing with me, and I was not walking away. And so I do actually think that was real. I think that there were some nice things that he did for me that were not a manipulation. I think those were real. I think he genuinely in those moments felt like wanting to help me, take care of me, do those things. And of course, I do also think there's some sense of control in that. I don't think those moments were terribly nefarious or maliciously intended. I think those were actually unique moments where I have seen really good things about him. But what I think happens is then, he gets to the point where he's realizes that he's vulnerable. He realizes that he's seen. He realizes I see behind the mask and that I haven't gone anywhere. And I think that's overwhelming and scary. And I think also realizes at that point, he can't control me and he can't dominate me because I'm actually choosing to be in that situation eyes wide open. So at that point, there is no ability to manipulate, control, or save his emotional safety or protection in the way that he needs to do. And so, of course, so then the behaviors and his reaction to that are what became the narcissist behaviors, and that's what he always does. And sorry, the cat is playing with, I don't know, his catnip toy, so you're going to hear that. This is what he does, and that's when you start, or at least when I started to see kind of the patterns again, enough to realize what's happening. The lining up of the next relationship before you're out of the first one, right? So I could tell that something was going on, and there was some pullback, and I always suspect with him that if he's not talking to me, he's talking to someone because he needs constant attention and validation. And I was giving that, but I was also being real with him about other things, right? So it wasn't this constant, you're great, you're wonderful, and I don't see all these other things. I did see all the other things, and he knew it. So that makes me complicated, dangerous, and something he's terrified to lose. And therefore, he's wired to take control. And so I think he started getting the lineup ready. And how do I know? Because he's done it with me. I mean, the whole reason I heard from him when I did last year a couple of times before, we got involved last fall, is because he was in a relationship that was ending, and I didn't know that, but I suspected it. He was in a relationship that was on its way out. And so he was lining me up to make sure I would be there if he pulled the plug on that, which he eventually did. The other thing that I have also wondered in the past is he has told me he loved me, and I do believe that. I really do, in the level of capacity that he has. And it may be that he loves the attention that I give him, that he loves whatever validation, all of the things that he gets from me, he loves. And I believe he believes that too. But with this great love that he expressed 13 years ago, like he had multiple opportunities over the past 12 to 13 years to seek me out, to come back, to figure out if like what we had was like a real thing after, he got out of some other things. And he never did that. He kind of continued his pattern. He was in the last relationship he got out of for 4 years. And I've wondered, it's like, why can you get into these relationships with these damaged women that like ruin your life according to you and what you tell me? Why can you do that, but you can't come back and work it out with me? And I think it is because there is a level of shallowness and unawareness on their part of what they're dealing with. And he can enter those relationships freshly and in control because this is somebody who hasn't seen him to the level that I have. And so he can control that and he can mask that. And I think that he gets what he needs for a while temporarily, and then something goes awry. Like maybe they stumble onto it, or they want something more, or they also don't have the greatest behaviors. This last one, I'm sure there's two sides to this story, and I'm sure that there are some similarities between her and I, but there's also some like terrible things that she's done, and I've seen the facts and I believe him on that. But I also believe there's probably still more to it, that it didn't just come out of nowhere. It's not like he's an easy person to be around. So yeah, I think he picks these relationships that he knows he has control over. And so I never end up being like the one he totally comes back to, because I'm the one he's scared of the most. And he should be, because despite the fact that I'm vulnerable to this, I do have boundaries. I do speak my mind. And granted, yes, I got to a point of walking on eggshells for certain reasons, because of some things that he was dealing with, but like there was no long-term plan for me to stay that way. I kind of had a list of things in my head that were going to get addressed at some point as his situation let up. And because I don't long-term keep it to myself. And I do believe that like if things are meant to be, they're meant to be with who you are 100% authentically. And the way I accept him, I expected the same. So yeah, so that's what makes it hard, is that I actually do think that there are some real true moments of love and depth, and vulnerability between the two of us. And I don't necessarily think those particular moments were staged or manipulative, but I do think his reaction to those moments and his need to try to regain control is then when he goes into these narcissistic behaviors. And then that is how I get sort of erased, and quieted and silenced and sort of put on the back burner. But that's the challenge, is that like I'm not a back burner girl, right? And so it's not like I'm going to be here every single time he goes and has another bad relationship where he hasn't chosen me, and then he comes back and chooses me to recover with, until I become the person he realizes is the one and only person who sees him and loves him for who he is, which is unique. I don't think anyone else does. And then he's terrified of me. And that's sad. I feel sad for him. I really do. I think that someone like me, these personality disorders, they're not like, I guess from what I understand, and again, not a medical expert, but they're not like mental illnesses that like you can get treated. There's something totally different, and he's wired this way, and he's wired to shut me out the closer I get. And then, no doubt there will be some day somewhere in the future that he's going to be curious and he's going to want to try to test the waters with me, and that's where I'm doing the work now to be prepared for that, because I can't accept it and I can't go back to things the way they were. He would have to make like a significant change, and I don't think he's capable of it. And that's what's sad, because I am probably the one and only person that can see him, accept him, understand what all these things are, and deal with it honestly. I'm probably the person that can ground him, and because I love him, it makes me sad that he doesn't have the capacity to do right by that. And so that's part of what makes this whole thing messy and complicated, is that like there's still genuine love there, and I don't think everything was a lie. I think his reactions to it are 100% pure narcissist, and that's what I'm trying to unravel now. So thank you.